Hello students. In today's video, we are going to discuss the poem The Spider and the Fly by Mary Howitt. The Spider and the Fly is a very popular piece of literature, and this poem was basically written for children, but it holds true for adults in any century, and it represents society in a very realistic manner through the characters of the spider and the fly. So this poem was written by Mary Howitt. She was an English poet and author. She was mostly educated at home, but she started writing at a very early age. She had written several tales for children, so she writing for children, and Spider and the Fly is one such example. Along with her husband, she wrote about 180 books. She was married to William Howitt, and two of them together wrote several pieces of literature. Some of her famous works include sketches of natural history, birds and flowers and the other country things, strive and thrive. So these are some of her independent works, and she's known for these works. Spider and the Fly, basically the poem, was first published in 1829, but throughout the years after 1829, when it was first published, this piece has been taught, has been read by children in several countries and also by adults. This poem, though it's said that it's written for children, it holds true for the entire society. So this poem is a fable. A fable means when animals play the role of human beings. Animals are shown as characters depicting a story, and giving out a message. So this poem is where the two main characters are spider and fly. So these are the animals playing the characters, representing or personifying human attributes, and also it also has a didactic or moral meaning, which stands true for several centuries for society, for human beings. So this poem uses and depicts human weakness of being easily trapped by flattery, and that is why it is called a cautionary tale. Cautionary tale means it is sort of cautioning, it is warning the readers, the children and the adults, not to give in easily to flattery, otherwise people will be trapped. Poem uses natural world because spider and the fly are these characters from the natural world. So it is using the natural world to present the shrewd predator and gullible victims. So the shrewd predator is going to be the spider. Gullible victims, it will be represented by the fly. Spider and fly are used as symbols from the natural world to represent the human world. So they are simply representing the human world, and that is why we can say that personification is used in the poem, The Spider and the Fly. Let us now look at the poem in detail. It's a very simple poem. There is no use of difficult vocabulary, or there is no hidden meanings to the lines, right? So let's start with the poem. Will you walk into my parlor? Said the spider to the fly. So you can see that the spider is talking. The spider has been given attributes of human qualities, and that is why we can say that there is personification used. So the spider is talking to the fly and says, will you walk into my parlor? Parlor here means the spider's web. Actual meaning of parlor is a room which is used to entertain guests, but here in this context, it will mean the spider's web. Now, this particular line, the opening line of the poem, will you walk into my parlor, is a very famous line, which is often regarded as an expression of a warning of being trapped by deception, by being deceived by somebody. So, will you walk into my parlor? If you read this line anywhere, or if you come across this line anywhere, understand the context. It means that it's a warning. If somebody is either trying to trap you, or it's kind of used as a caution for the readers. So the spider here opens the poem with the line requesting and inviting the fly to his parlor. Now, of course, we know the spider being cunning. The spider is known as a predator, so that's why he's cunning, and he's trying to trap the innocent fly by extending a warm invitation to the fly. "'Tis the prettiest little parlor that ever you did spy. My little parlor is pretty. It's prettiest. You might have not seen this kind of a pretty parlor that you ever did spy, that you ever noticed. The way into my parlor is up a winding stair. So the way to my parlor is up a winding stair. Winding, the circular shaped stair. Now look at the imagery here. Winding stair. When it's a circular staircase, it is a reference to some form of a trap, like a spiral. Somebody who goes up the winding stair may never come out again. So the spider's parlor is up a winding stair. The winding stair is a reference to a form of a trap. And I have many curious things to show when you are there. So he's now tempting and luring the fly by saying that there are very pretty curious things that I can present if you come with me. So the tactic that the spider is using in the first stanza is luring and tempting the fly to reach his parlor. Throughout the poem, we will observe that the spider uses several tactics or tricks to invite the fly, to trap the fly to come to his parlor. So this is the first tactic, wherein he is tempting or luring the fly to visit his beautiful parlor. Oh, no, no, said the little fly. Ask me is in vain, is futile, is useless. For who goes up your winding stair can never come down again. Now, the line which is in red is an important line. You can use it as a quote because this is where we see that the fly is prudent, he's wise. Fly is not coming into the spider's words and is acting with caution, and she knows that whoever goes up those winding stairs will never come down again. So this line is important because it is directly related to a line in the last stanza of the poem. So please mark this line. You can use this line as a quote in your answers. So the spider, remember, in this stanza, the spider is trying to trap the fly by using temptation or luring the fly to visit his home, but the fly is prudent and politely refuses this invitation. In the second stanza now, we will see that the spider is using another technique and says, I'm sure you must be very dear with soaring up so high, very tired. You might be tired of flying up so high all day. Will you rest upon my little bed? Said the spider to the fly. There are pretty curtains drawn around, the sheets are fine and thin, and if you like to rest a while, I'll snugly tuck you in. So the next tactic used by the spider is to offer comfort. Says that if you come in, you can rest because you are tired. I have pretty curtains and fine, beautiful sheets where you can rest a while. So another tactic here is to offer comfort. When people are often tired or exhausted, they get easily trapped and tempted by comfort. And that is what the spider is trying to use with the fly. Oh, no, no, said the little fly, for I've often heard it said, they never, never wake up again who sleep upon your bed. Fly is still cautious, does not accept the invitation, and she knows, she has heard from people that whoever sleeps on the spider's bed will never be awake again, will never wake up. The spider will kill that or trap the prey. So that is why the fly refuses this invitation as well. Things to remember here, first of all, I'll snugly tuck you in. There's another meaning to this. The first meaning, the literal meaning, of course, the spider is saying that I will tightly put you in my bed. But another important meaning here is snugly tuck you in could be a reference that I will trap you or I will kill you. Snugly is to tighten up, tightly. Tuck you here may refer to push or refers to eat or attack you. But of course, it is put up in a very flowery way to the fly. But the fly is no fool till this point and does not accept the spider's offer. Said the cunning spider to the fly. Please mark the adjectives used, cunning spider. So we know that the spider is cunning, is trying to deceive the fly by calling her dear friend. Why dear friend should be used in your quotes is because this is a show, this is the pretense of false affection. What can I do to prove the warm affection I've always felt for you? So the third tactic here is to use false affection. I have within my pantry good store of all that's nice. So now trying to again lure the fly by saying that in my pantry, pantry is a room where food is stored. I have all the good store of food. I'm sure you're very welcome. Will you please take a slice? Again, trying to tempt the fly. Oh, no, no, said the little fly. Kind sir, that cannot be. I've heard what's in your pantry and I do not wish to see. Fly is acting wise, is being cautious, is saying, I know what's there in your pantry, what kind of food will be there, other insects, of course, in your pantry. I do not wish to see. But the spider is persistent, is going to try, will continue trying to convince the fly, but till this point again, the fly does not give in. So spider's use of affection and temptation, my pantry, food, tempting with food, does not work with the fly. So he continues by calling her a sweet creature. Again, false affection. Sweet creature, said the spider, you're witty and you're wise. Now the spider is using flattery, calling the fly witty and wise. How handsome are your gauzy wings, how brilliant are your eyes. Gauzy wings meaning so fine and thin that it can emit light. How brilliant are your eyes, beautiful, brilliant eyes. I have a little looking glass, mirror, upon my parlor shelf. If you will step in one moment, dear, you shall behold yourself. You can see yourself in that looking glass. I thank you, gentle sir, she said, for what you are pleased to say. I thank you for your compliments. It's pleasing to hear this. I thank you for that. But the fly does not still give in and says, and bidding you good morning now, I'll call another day. So she's trying to take leave, bidding him farewell, says, I'll come some other day, I'll call another day. But we need to remember here in this stanza that the next tactic or the trick that the spider uses is flattery. With affection, the spider covers it up with flattery. Let's see if the fly will fall for it. The spider turned him around. The spider turned him round about and went into his den, for well he knew the silly fly would soon come back again. So he was confident. This is a quality of a very cunning, evil person, that they are confident of their efforts and they're also confident of how the innocent people are entrapped. So he knows that she will come back again. So he wove a subtle web. Subtle is very slyly, in a very hidden manner. He nobody that is not obvious to the fly's eyes. He is weaving a web for the fly and set his table ready to dine upon the fly. So he is prepared. Again, a quality of a cunning, evil person, that he is ready, preparedness. Then he came out to his door again and merrily did sing, come hither, 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 here. Come here, hither, hither, pretty fly, with pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple, there's a crest upon your head. Your eyes are like the diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead. Flattery, these lines are very important because the spider here is not ashamed to use flattery and calls her pretty fly, pearl and silver wing, robes. Robes here refers to the fly's body, which has a green and purple color. Crest actually means crown. Here it refers to the fly's head, that the spider calls it like a crown. Upon your head, your eyes are like the diamond bright. Look at the simile. Your eyes are like the diamond bright. So comparing her eyes to diamonds. But mine are dull as lead. So trying to downplay himself and trying to flatter the fly in order to lure her to come to the web. So this is the use of flattery that the spider is doing with the fly. Alas, alas. The expression alas here is very important because it indicates that there is a sad ending to this. Alas, finally a sad ending. How very soon this silly little fly, observe the adjectives again, silly little fly compared to the cunning spider. Hearing his wildly flattering words, came slowly flitting by. So, hearing the flattering words, hearing the cunning words, she fell for it and comes slowly flitting by with buzzing wings. Buzzing, an onomatopic word, which means that with buzzing wings, with making that sound, buzzing sound, she hung afloat. She was flying near the spider's web. Then nearer and nearer drew. So closer and closer she came to the spider's web. Okay, so we know here that flattery has worked. Flitting means to move swiftly. So she swiftly comes nearer and nearer and nearer, and the spider's last tactic, which was flattery, has been successful. Thinking only of her brilliant eyes and green and purple hues. So she only kept thinking about the praise that the spider has used. She kept thinking about her beautiful green and purple body, thinking only of her crest. We can see the repetition of the phrase thinking only. Thinking only is used to show that it emphasizes on the fact that the fly only kept thinking about the false praise that the spider has used. At last, so she was thinking only about her crested head. Poor foolish thing. Again, the adjectives, poor foolish thing. At last, up jumped the cunning spider and fiercely held her fast. He dragged her up his winding stair into his dismal den, into his gloomy den. So the moment the fly gave in to flattery, the spider was cunning, swift, and he fiercely jumps onto her and drags her forcibly. Dragging here, look at the word drag. It suggests some sort of force. Till now he was very willing, he was very warmly trying to invite the fly, but now he drags her up the winding stair into his dismal den within his little parlor, but she never came out again. So this line is very important, but she never came out again, because if we see the first stanza, we had talked about the first line, the lines in the first stanza, where where she knew that whoever goes into that den never comes out again, but she falls for the trap and she goes into the den to never come out again. This is the doom to the fly. She gave in to flattery, she believed the flattering words, and she dies. And finally, the last stanza is where the poet is speaking to the readers. So it's not the spider or the fly who are talking. Now it's the poet who is addressing the readers, and she says, "And now, dear little children, who may this story read, to idle, silly, flattering words, I pray you never give heed attention. I hope that you never pay attention to idle, silly, and flattering words. Onto an evil counselor, wicked, onto a wicked person, close your heart, ear, and eye." Why heart? Because if someone's trying to use affection, you must close your heart to it. False affection, then you must close your heart to it. Why ear? You must close your ears to flattering words. And why eyes? If somebody is trying to trap you, lure you, and tempt you with pretty and beautiful things, close your eyes to it. So, very important line, onto an evil counselor, close heart, ear, and eye. Please use this in your answers, because this is summing up the entire poem. It is the central idea of the poem. Onto an evil counselor, close heart and ear and eye. And take a lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly. So poet is requesting us, is asking us to take a lesson, to learn from this tale of the spider and the fly, to never be gullible, to never be innocent, and to never give in to flattery. Never let cunning people take advantage of you through their wicked tricks. So the spider throughout the poem has used wicked tricks. Some important words to remember. These are few words that you can use in your answers to describe the spider as well as the fly. So for the spider, you could use words like predator, cunning, evil, conniving, crafty, manipulative, deceitful, somebody who tries to deceive someone. So here the spider has tried to deceive the fly by false affection, by flattery, by praising her. Sly. Sly is somebody who is very cunning in a way that the person opposite will never realize. Wily and devious. Devious, somebody who devises schemes and plans and tricks. So you see the spider is devising different ideas to trap the fly throughout the poem. Some words that we can use to describe the fly: innocent, gullible, easily convinced, victim, she's the victim, prey to the predator, naive. Naive is somebody who is inexperienced. Though we know that the fly knew about the spider, but we can still call her naive because she did not have the experience with the spider earlier. Ignorant, ignorant because in spite of knowing things, she is ignoring it, and she's ignorant of the fact that her her visiting the spider could lead to her death. And of course, foolish. So these are some words that you can use in your answers to describe the spider and the fly. Let us quickly look at few aspects of the poem, which include the theme, very important aspect. Themes of the poem: power of flattery is the first theme. We know that the fly calls upon her doom because of flattery. The spider has used flattery, which has killed and destroyed the fly. Foolishness and folly: fly's foolishness was her mistake, and that is why she was killed and trapped. Deception and manipulation: she is deceived by the spider, who pretends to be her friend, who pretends to tempt and praise and flatter her. The spider manipulates the fly by using evil tricks. So these are three important themes that you can prove by the lines and by the text, by the poem. Style of the poem: let's first discuss the title, which is a very straightforward title because it describes the antagonist and the protagonist both. Antagonist meaning the negative character, negative important character, who is the spider, and the protagonist meaning the positive uh, main character, who is the fly. This poem is a fable. Fable basically is when important characters are played by animals to denote a meaning, to denote a moral message. So fable is when the animals play the role of characters. Okay, typically animals as characters conveying a moral or didactic meaning. This poem is in form of a verse, meaning it is in also trying to narrate a small little episode or a story in a form of poetry. And the poem is divided into 7 stanzas, a very simple language, yet very descriptive language. There is very easy rhyme scheme to the poem, so that it appeals to the children. This, as I said, this poem was written for children, so it also has a rhyme scheme and simple language, straightforward language, so children can understand it. So if you see the first 4 stanzas of the poem, the rhyme scheme is A A B B C C. The next 2 follow the scheme of A A B B C C D D, and the last one has A A B B. So if you see, very, very simple rhyme scheme throughout the poem. The poetic devices, of course, personification, because the spider as well as the fly both are personified throughout the poem, where both of them represent or show human characteristics and attributes. So when the attribution of a personal nature or human characteristics is given to non-human to represent certain qualities of human form, that is called personification. So here the spider and fly both are personified to be the cunning people. Spider represents the cunning people in the society. Spider is personified to be the evil characters of the society, whereas the fly is personified to be the innocent, gullible victims of the society. There is simile used when the spider says, "Your eyes are like bright diamonds." So this simile makes our imagination vivid. There is repetition used in the poem. You will see that several lines in the poem, several phrases in the poems are repeated often. Repetition is usually used because the poet here wants to emphasize on a certain aspect. For example, when the fly keeps saying, "Oh no, no," so that is said, that is shown to us to represent a form of refusal. Poet is trying to emphasize on the fact that the fly tried to refuse several times when she says, "Oh no, no," and then she keeps saying that, "Never, never wake up again, never, never come out again." So all that emphasizes on the fact that the fly was aware of the danger, yet she is risking her life. So repetition is used in the poem for the sake of emphasis. Then there is a device, literary device called as aphorism. Aphorism is when there is a popular saying. Aphorism is actually a saying or an observation which has a general truth, a form of general truth that is given out in form of a saying. That is aphorism. "Walk into my parlor." Aphorism, when the spider says, "Walk into my parlor." Now this line, "Walk into my parlor," was used, is still used very famously to indicate somebody is trying to trap you. So whenever you see "walk to my parlor," or when you hear this or read this, somebody talking about it, it is a reference. It's like a phrase which is used to signify that somebody is trying to trap someone who is innocent. So aphorism is a brief saying or a phrase that expresses an opinion or a general truth. So this line, "Walk into my parlor," over the years, over centuries, has now become a form of aphorism where it is understood that someone is trying to trap you. So these are some important things to remember in the poem. We will later discuss the poem and solve the doubts in our session. Thank you, students.